All right, guys. So Xbox recently held their like Xbox Partner Direct preview, whatever, where they showcased a lot of the third parties that are currently working closely with Xbox, with the Xbox brand. A lot of these games are coming day and date to Game Pass, and that is really, really cool to see for Xbox. But the thing this really highlighted for me, not as an Xbox like fan per se or anything like that, but just a fan of gaming, and that is the fact that I am super excited to live in a time where I'm honestly probably more excited for the third party offerings than I am excited for first party offerings. When I look at the first party offerings that released this year, things like Spider Man 2, things like Starfield, Tears of the Kingdom, all of those games are great in their own rights, and I had my own anticipation for them. But when I look at the third party offerings of games that not only excited me but surprised me, things like Street Fighter 6 that I was very, very hyped for, Final Fantasy 16 that I was hyped for, Remnant 2 was a huge surprise for me, Baldur's Gate 3, and the list can go on and on and on about all these games that I feel like I probably enjoyed. I don't want to say more, but to the level, and I was supplied with them plentifully. And I feel like this is where I don't understand some of the debate, some of the argument. People are mad with sometimes with Sony or with PlayStation that they're not really getting the games that they want. They're not getting the first party offerings that they signed up for with these ecosystems, and I 100% understand that. I do want to say that a lot of these people that are saying, wow, where's Sony's first party games, are the same people who are saying how much fun they're having playing a lot of these other third party games. So, what I'm trying to get at is yes, Sony, Xbox, Nintendo need to release first party games. That's what differentiates their console from the others. I get that. With that being said, there's nothing wrong with padding the year with third party games if they're really awesome and it allows the first party developers to really work harder on their offerings. Because, I mean, this year was packed as all hell, and Sony really only offered us Spider Man 2 as far as first party offerings. And a lot of people from the PlayStation fan base are pretty upset about that. But in my head, I if Sony came out with another first party game, I don't know where I would have found the time to play it because there's already games this year that I wanted to play that I'm not going to be able to get to this year or probably maybe even ever just because of how big the backlog is, how many cool games are coming out consistently. Again, it's one of those things that I feel like we as gamers stick too hard to a first party like developer to release X, Y, and Z product. Like Xbox, for example, everyone is clowning Redfall. There's people who bash Starfield, even Forza, Halo, all these things, right? That everyone makes fun of Xbox for. But nobody ever gives Xbox credit with the fact that Game Pass does offer some pretty valuable titles, and not just in the way of like older outdated titles, but also in newer titles. Things like Liza P, which is a phenomenal game, is day and date on Game Pass. Things like the Like a Dragon series that is making big waves on Game Pass, like a Dragon Ishin, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name is also coming day and date to Game Pass. Game Pass, as much as I don't necessarily love the idea of Game Pass or what it's done to Xbox in general, as a consumer, just a person who's a fan of games, I am excited to see that these third party developers not only have options as to where they put their games and where people can consume their games, they also have options as far as when they want to partner with people. You look at like Square Enix that partners with Nintendo for smaller projects like Live Alive or Triangle Strategy. They partner with Sony with some of their bigger projects like Forspoken or Final Fantasy 16, and they've also made headway with partnering with Xbox. And no longer are the days of third-party developers being shackled to one console or being like led down a certain way because one first-party console is demanding it of them. In fact, it's kind of the opposite right now, where these first-party developers, just because they're not really developing the games that their fan bases want right now, are relying heavily on third parties to fill out the calendar year. And because third parties have so much power, they're able to do things like Sea of Stars dropping day and day on not just Game Pass, but also on the PlayStation Plus subscription, and also getting tons of huge marketing from Nintendo. So again, this is a weird time and it's a great time because I remember a time where PlayStation held a lot of third party developers to shackles. They would say things like, don't put your game on Xbox for X amount of years. They'll say things like, we'll pump out the marketing for you guys if you guys don't do it. They've even gone as far as, discourage crossplay with things like Tekken, the Tekken developers coming out saying that PlayStation discouraged them from adding crossplay to their games. And it's a lot of these things that I feel like get overlooked in the conversation, in the console war and the fan basing that's going on. And I think overall we can all agree just games are awesome. And if the first party developers aren't giving us what we want, we have amazing third parties that are giving us this product. And I think once we realize that they are awesome games, even if you're waiting for the next Naughty Dog or the next Sucker Punch game, or you're waiting for Fable or the next thing that Coalition's coming out with, whatever it is that you're waiting for from these first parties, you can't tell me you're not playing some amazing third parties on your way there. And a lot of times when I look back at my favorite consoles, my favorite games on those consoles weren't even like exclusive to the console or even like from the first party offerings. A lot of them were from third party developers that made amazing games, amazing titles for specific platforms or even just multi-plat. And again, I just happen to associate it primarily with one specific platform because that's where I played it with, etc., etc. Anyways, the thing that Xbox partner, preview showed me and showcased was that we can get hyped about awesome things that aren't just the first parties. And yes, these first party developers have obligation to the consumers that invested in their console to deliver something that separates them from the other pieces of plastic. I get that. 100% again, I agree with that. What I will say though is that it's not all doom and gloom like a lot of people want to act. Hey, Naughty Dog has taken a really long time to develop their next games. That's fine. Let them cook because you know what? In the meantime, I'm gonna play the From Software games. I'm gonna play things from Square Enix and Capcom and some indie games along the way, and I'm gonna have a fun time. I've been gaming nonstop since the beginning of 2023 all the way till now without really missing a beat because again, I'm just a fan of games and I've just been playing all these different offerings from all these different platforms and all these different, you know, publishers and developers that are making fantastic titles that I feel like I guess are getting, I don't want to say overlooked in conversation, but definitely people are again just they're dwelling too much on the first party offerings to the point where it's becoming them like very pessimistic. I feel like gaming is becoming really really toxic, becoming really really pessimistic, where people are just mad all the time. They're looking for reasons to hate on specific games, right? Like people make fun of Starfield's NPCs, people are making fun of Cube Spider-Man, people are just outright making fun of a lot of games left and right. And I feel like why do you need to do that? Like if Spider-Man 2 has a cube glitch, that is fine. Let the player worry about that, the person who's playing it. Me personally, I don't really care. I've encountered a couple glitches here and there on Spider-Man 2, and none of them have been great game breaking. A lot of my favorite games of all times have had glitches. It's just a part of games, and it's not really that big a deal. Again, I feel like there's a lot of these weird conversations that get thrown out when we start focusing too heavily on specific first party developers and what they're releasing, and we want to compare, like I see people comparing Spider-Man 2 to Starfield, two completely opposite games with different game designs, different like thought processes, different ways you play, and different audiences essentially. And people are trying to compare them as though they have to go neck and neck because they're the first party rivals or whatever. And that's just not the case. I feel like these developers that are working on these specific hardwares and specific consoles don't necessarily care about the console wars. They just want to make a game that is awesome and it's going to live down in their legacy. I feel like this whole console war thing is like just weird, and you're putting it upon like these developers and these publishers that honestly don't care. Phil Spencer said it himself. They lost the console war back on the Xbox One, and they have no intentions on battling either Nintendo or Sony in the console race. They're trying to find a way to, I guess, coexist in this market rather than battle it out. And I feel like gaming is going to be a lot better once the consumers understand that we're not like held captive to whenever Sony makes a game or whenever Xbox releases a game or whenever Nintendo releases a game. You can play other games and enjoy those games, whether they be multi-plats or exclusives to a certain console. In the end of the day, again, what I'm trying to get at is stop dwelling so much on whether or not your first party, your first party console developers are releasing the games that you want. Get over it. Move on. Play something else. Hey, I've been a fan of a lot of developers that no longer make amazing games anymore because they're busy doing other things like a Konami. That I used to love things like Contra. I used to love things like the Metal Gear series, and yet we don't really get anything from any of these series anymore because Konami isn't really interested in making games. They're making a shift ish, whatever. That's another conversation. But again, overall, I get it if you're waiting for the next big Naughty Dog or big Sucker Punch game or where's Gears 6, all these conversations. I get it. I understand it. Move on, and I guarantee you're going to be happier for it. Enjoy the games that you're playing now. Enjoy the games that we know for a fact we're getting instead of waiting and like twiddling our thumbs on Twitter and getting mad at each other because factions is on ice. These weird conversations that in the end of the day should not affect you, your thought processes, your mentalities, or the way you consume games. Play some third party offerings, have a blast, and enjoy the things that you're playing now versus consistently waiting for these first parties to deliver things that they're not delivering on, because they'll deliver it when they do it and it's going to be amazing when they do it and we're going to be all happy when they do. Anyways, you guys, I'm going to end this video right here. It's been a long kind of rant, excuse me. It's just something that I kind of wanted to highlight, something I wanted to talk about a little bit. If you guys like this video, do me a favor and like this video. Please consider subscribing, as that does help us out tons. Without wasting any more time, I'm just going to end this video. See you guys on the next one.